Welcome to episode 3 of No More Boomer Communism. All the boomers say, Chief Keef can't make a difference. Chief Keef can't do this. Chief Keef can't do that. Shut the fuck up. Today we're going to go through Explain Like I'm 5 of the whole, because this is very complicated stuff. Inherently, insurance, nobody pays attention because it's boring as shit. Until you realize that there's $1 trillion hole. Okay? Then you go, what the fuck? Okay? So I'm going to explain this very simply using simple terms. You can go and you can use Ask Gemini. You can use whatever tool you want to fact check this, right? Some of this data, you will still be able to fact check, even though it's from the S&P, the aggregate totals. Most of it is public. It's all sourced at the bottom. Okay? Go Gemini Deep Research. Got it? Okay. Private credit is an issue. Okay? Everyone's stuck on the front of it. That was me 2 months ago. I got inflows. I did the homework and I found insurance is incredibly levered. And I'm like, holy crap. Then coming out with it, Tom Grober, forensic accountant, certified fraud expert, hits me up and he's like, I can't believe you said that. That was so great. I got to tell you, because it's so much worse than you even think. And I'm like, huh? I thought it was pretty bad. This article is a story trying to synthesize everything happening in insurance using specific examples. And in reality, it's not only so levered, meaning they have a bunch of assets and a bunch of liabilities. They have to pay out the liabilities. The assets need to be higher than the liabilities. Otherwise, it goes into receivership. It is a $10 trillion balance sheet. To explain, $10 trillion, right? In the Bermuda, that amount of money would go to the moon stacked cash. Okay. It is so much money. Another way to visualize it is the Federal Reserve's balance sheet that everyone thinks is omnipotent and also omniscient, but omnipotent. That's only $6.5 trillion. After COVID, we worked it up to $9 trillion. And that was bazooka after mini bazooka after first mega bazooka in global financial crisis. Right. The Federal Reserve balance sheet is considered huge. The insurance industry, specifically annuity and life. Annuity is like you get retirement money, kind of like Social Security. You pay it and you get it back. Life insurance, when I pass away, my children, my family is going to be taken care of. So, private credit mostly is high net worth individuals, pension funds. Pension funds, allocators should all be fired. But in reality, if they take a 50% hit on their private credit exposure, yeah, politicians are going to talk about it. They're going to talk about the teacher. They're going to talk about whatever, shit. They can handle that. I'm not so worried about boomers in retirement. Going to be straight up, all of the pension funds, all of the unions, everything, like they're only worried about the guys that they got, not about the next generation. That's where I care. But specifically the life and annuity side, that is a big deal, because it's not like your pension takes a 10% hit. You have to take less benefits in retirement. Meanwhile, they were all pushing risk up and capturing returns and giving you more before. The life and annuity, that is really targeted at the middle class. Rich people don't need annuities. They have wealth managers. These products are bad to begin with. That's going to have to be a bailout. There's no way that you can have that fail. Now, again, still mostly boomers who pays young people. I want to show you specific examples of how there's a $658 billion gap between the 10 trillion and the 9.5 trillion that says everything's insolvent on average. There's, some people that are super exposed and over levered, some people that, some people are very thin margin, some people with a decent margin. The way in general is private equity backed insurers, they're the worst in general. Public companies, really bad too. Really bad too. Because they're paying out dividends. They're trying to build, it's called the dividend discount model, which means if your dividends go up every single year, they model it out until infinity and you get a better valuation. Typical finance stuff. Okay. And they only do that for companies like insurance companies. That's like a really old school way to value things. The mutual funds are like the Green Bay Packers. Okay. If you have a policy, you own USAA or you own New York Life, a little share. That means that they serve you. That's it. The people that work there, they get paid, in some cases pretty good, but they respond to you. Their incentive is to make sure you get your policy, right? Build the balance sheet, sure. That's their incentive. They want to offer more money, sure. They have to compete, sure. They still have to compete with the Raiders as the Green Bay Packers, but it's much better. What you're going to find out, though, is that not only is the margin razor thin, but we are relying on reinsurance. Reinsurance is when an insurance company decides that they want to have another insurance company take some of their risk. In property and casualty, this is the insurance you're probably used to. We're going to skip healthcare. Property and casualty, you get home insurance. Okay. If there's a hurricane and an insurance company has a lot of coverage in Florida, they might go bankrupt. So they reinsure some of that, right? Hey, listen, if we spend if we take a $400 million loss, you take the next 400, please, because it's going to hurt. They might do it multiple times. The idea of that sounds okay. The problem is that it's gone haywire, especially in the annuity and life space, because the annuity and life space, I mean, what are the chances that, there's not really that same event, maybe COVID. But it really doesn't equate. That means that they're insuring against their balance sheet. So their assets going down is their risk, right? Not really necessarily their liabilities going up. Because they think that they have their liabilities forever and it's super long term and it's all, it's pretty predictable. That's why they take so much leverage. And then what they say is, let's just send away some of the risk of our balance sheet going down so we can take more risk, maybe do it again, take more risk. And what you're going to find out is what they're doing, number one, makes no sense. And number two, it is all sent to the same 7 reinsurers for the most part. So 7 companies are backstopping all of this. And number 3, it's sent offshore where nobody can see it. And we just have to trust that there's $2 trillion in the Bermudas, Barbados, Ireland, etc. We're told to rely on $2 trillion there. I think the reliance on there is worth way more than $2 trillion. This does not include Europe. Okay. And I think there's $1 trillion missing there. And I think the evidence says so. And I think we'd be lucky if there was just $1 trillion missing there. And what that means is the total hole that we had during the global financial crisis was $450 billion. It's not exactly apples to apples. This is a big issue. And this next bailout, first of all, everyone thinks the Fed can always print money forever. They could print $1 trillion. They've done it before. I think trust in the system and the political unease about bailing out this generation once again that has benefited mostly from this, I think it would be extremely untenable and really, really bad. So we need to address it now. Okay, we're going to go a little bit into specifics. I'm going to tell you in layman's how everything is happening. Gretchen Morgensen, protect her with all costs. Okay, she's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist. She connected Tom Grober to Steve Eisman, who's Mark Baum in The Big Short. He brought Tom Grober on, and I saw Tom push me further. I was already looking into it, but he pushed me further. And then Tom actually saw what I came out with after, and he reached out to me. Gretchen Morgensen, protector. Yeah, I hope I didn't put too much heat on her before she comes out with what she's going to come out with. Brookfield is a great example of how sketchy this is. Okay. They are a Canadian asset manager, alternative asset manager. They have $1 trillion under management. They have these captive reinsurers. Their tech team released something that was never supposed to be released. And that was what the actual balance sheet was. Meaning what the assets, what the liabilities, what the capital surplus was for all of these. It's actually borderline insane what they found. They have this thing called an XOL asset. You remember that they're doing reinsurance. This is a way to reinsure. That XOL asset protects kind of like a put, if you know what a put is. You buy a put, and if you buy it on something that you own, if it goes below that, you're good. You pay a little bit of premium, you're good. The thing is that we then this is $5.3 billion of XOL assets, which, by the way, they invent an asset, they send a little bit of premium and invent an asset. Right. So basically a reinsurance company is selling not a cash secured put, but a super margined put. Okay. If you understand that. But in this case, not only is it, selling naked puts for the reinsurer, but you go back to who sold it, Hanover Life of America, German reinsurance company, the third biggest in the world, not the first, not the second, the third. They don't expect to pay. And we know that because these are blank. Okay. And they don't expect to pay. Every time anyone has looked, because you got to understand, the industry has made it illegal for us to see. Okay. Think about how crazy that is. U.S. regulators, even under subpoena, Vermont says we cannot see what happens. Does that sound right to you? No. The industry is going to have talking points. You must say, I don't trust you. Okay. We need more skepticism. You may not have the tools to combat the narrative. Don't stop. Listen to me. Don't stop. Okay. I am outlining and steel manning their typical response. I've gone through it. I've felt pushback. It's all right. I'll fight through this contact. And it's honestly the weakest defense I've ever seen. Right. But you got to understand, I'm trying to lay out here what they're going to say. What we need to do is to just keep on running. You don't need to understand everything. Maybe you just get this to someone who does. Maybe that is enough. Someone who has a little bit more power, just spread it. Tweet it on social media. Okay? You say, hey, Grok, fact check this. Oh, it's right. Okay, I'm going to retweet this. I don't know what this means, but it sounds scary. That does something. Okay? The difference between the global financial crisis and today is we have social media. So instead of waiting 2 years for something to blow up and it being much worse, and by the way, this is starting off worse, we could potentially force the issue. Okay. It's like Chief Keef can't do this. Chief Keef can't do that. Well, Chief Keef has an army of autists. So what do you think cannot happen exactly? 1.54 trillion, so 15% of that 10 trillion, is incestual. Okay? It's cousin stuff. It's really brother and sister stuff. It should not happen. And every time we look into it, it's bogus. They're just inventing assets. This affects every single insurance company that you know. Even USAA, that might be right, has reinsurance through Hanover. Okay? It's really bad. Okay? Apollo, they just say a bunch of stuff. What I want to focus on, the captive stuff where they just buy and insure and then all of a sudden it's invisible, crazy. Cross-pollination, all of a sudden all of these weird reinsurers with bad balance sheets are like, oh, I'll reinsure you, you reinsure me. It's insane. Okay? There's no way anyone can look into this and say it's not insane, coming from a biased perspective. If not, you're protecting your bag. Okay? There's 7 funnels, there's 7 reinsurers. All of this runs through. They do not have the money. They cannot back it up. Again, we are lucky if there's $1 trillion backing the reinsurance. Okay? If even one of those 7 goes down, rips the cover off of all of this, the entire system fails. Okay? The entire A&L system fails in the US. That means that it will in Europe. That means that we have a major credit crisis. It is as big as a global financial crisis and mortgage. It's not collateralized, but it is as big. Okay? And what you have to understand is we are liquidating over-levered businesses. We're not liquidating homes. Okay? So when you adjust for that, the 16 trillion versus the, really it's a 10 trillion balance sheet, but it's 3.5 trillion. It's in the same ballpark. Okay. And we have a lot of leverage built up in different ways. And a really important part of the equation here is there's a bigger hole and trust in the system will go to 0. Okay. It's not good. Morphine. They say these deals are a bit like morphine. It's very hard to come off of them. They just pay premium to pretend like they're a backstop. And then they might pay another person to pretend like there's a backstop. There's no money. There's no money. You sue me. It's not good. Not good money. Okay? You sue me. You sue me very much. If 50% of it's not good, as I said, just the affiliated paper. And there's so many components of this. If we're looking at a $1 trillion hole, we are lucky. Okay? That's it. 1 trillion. Okay? That is a lot of money. And again, people want to know timing of it. Boomers say, son, you're onto something. Why don't you make a lot of money? Why don't you just try to make a lot of money? You can position yourself to capitalize on the chaos. And I go, hey, listen, okay? Hey. You're going to be dead in 5 years. Okay? I got to deal with this shit. My kids have to deal with this. Okay? I can make money in any environment. You see? You want to know why? Because I throw the ball hard. I run fast. I just do the things, right? I'm confident in my abilities. I don't need to, take one big samurai sword off the head of the U.S. economy. Right? Right? Just kill it. Right? Hey guys, I'm a billionaire, but everything's burning. The Fed knows, still Jerome Powell says, it's not systemic. But we know that he's starting to listen. Why is that? Because I speak in a resonance frequency and I have the hear that? Hear that resonance frequency? It's vibrating Jerome Powell. It's incredible. I invented this. He's awake, guys. He's awake. He's paying attention now. Okay. So once the private credit gets downgraded, this the whole thing rips the cover off. If anyone looked into it, the whole thing rips or covered off. You don't have to think too much about how it happens. You just need to know it's gonna happen. PHL variable. All these PE companies are just doing crazy stuff. It is fugazi. Okay. Michael Lewis just needs to make a movie so everyone can understand. Margot Robbie needs to be in a bathtub to explain this. Maybe. But you guys made it far enough into the video where I'm happy to end it and say, you know what? This will blow up. Okay? Thank you, America.